Here is the latest addition to our camera arsenal. This is the Nikon Z9. Now we picked this up to see whether or not we wanted to do a housing for camera bodies of this size like this and the R3. This is just a little intro. I've never seen it, but I can tell you just based on the box that this thing's gonna be bigger than most cameras. So let's dive in. Okay. Paperwork, it's pretty standard. Alright. Cut that open. Okay. Looks like this is the good half. Oh my god. This thing. The weight is this thing generates gravity. It's like Christmas. Oh my god. Wow. Yeah. That is a camera for sure. Alright. Just to be sure, what else do we have? Alright. We have, looks like a charger, USB-C, the wall adapter. Alright. What do we have here? Looks like looks like we get a dock for another battery. So we can charge, oh, that hooks up to that. Okay, that makes sense. So those two things go together. USB to USB-C cord. All right. Camera strap. These are your, so these hook up to your camera from other cameras. I know this, to basically reinforce your cables to the camera body so that they don't get pulled out. So if you got this hooked up to something else, you use one of those. And we have a sizable battery. With cap. All right. Sure they didn't leave anything in the bottom. All right, that's it. So, initial impressions of this camera are, it's big. It's quite big. And I've handled the R3, and this thing is significantly heavier, at least in feel. We'll get exact specs on it here, because we're gonna compare this to the R3, we're gonna compare it to the Sony A1, and I wanna know how it compares to the previous Z models. But as far as the weight goes, I can tell you this for sure has some heft to it. Has the built-in grip, so if you shoot a lot of portraits, that's nice to have. I'm specifically interested in seeing what we can do with autofocus. The LCD screen was another curiosity of mine. So we have a tilt back, like so. And that's it. All right, so somebody more educated than I about this camera just informed me a little bit more on this LCD screen. While we don't get it flipped around like I was talking, check this little feature out here. So I talked about, you know, we're shooting portraits, right? Check this out. Yeah. Look at that. So now we can get that low angle with our portrait grip. Pretty cool. As far as the controls will go, looks like your standard DSLR Nikon. Yeah, that's my first thoughts on it. It looks like we got a sizable contender here, so let's see how it stacks up to the other cameras. Okay, so I'm not gonna get extremely technical with the specifications here. I do recommend that if you're interested in that, there's a bunch of videos on it. Or just go to Deep Preview. They got an excellent tool. It's deeppreview.com, where you can select the cameras you want to compare, and it'll give you a chart on what the specs are and how they compare. It's very comprehensive. Now, that being said, all right, so we have the Nikon Z9, we have the Canon R3, the Sony A1, and we have the Nikon Z7 II. Now we're in a unique opportunity to have all these cameras out in front of us. I know a lot of people aren't, so I kind of wanted to do this for everybody. One thing that you may notice off the gate, and Logan here behind the camera is really getting bothered by this, is you'll notice that I have all the sensors exposed. And we're doing that on purpose, not just to bother Logan, but because I do want to point out that I do like personally that the Canon covers that sensor in between. Now with what I do a lot, I have the sensor, I have different lenses, I got this open all the time, so that's a nice feature. But that being said, you have a full frame sensor across the board here. So kind of diving into the obvious points of difference here. So one thing is the LCD screens. So like on your Nikon Z7, you know, we have the tilt back size right there. The A1, similar, same thing. On the R3, you can come out and you can swivel. And on the new Z9, you can come out, no swivel, but you do have the ability to, if I can do this without breaking it, tilt it out as well. So that is, of course, if you're going to shoot down low like that or down low like that. Now you'll notice that these two have a grip, so you're not going to do your standard this or this. You're going to switch it around. So that feels good. The Canon doesn't do that, but what it does do is you can flip it around and film yourself or get that angle, set up a scene, and get a view of it if you're anywhere near the front of the camera. Not something you're going to do with the Nikon or these other two. So moving on to the next point, which is, as you can see visually, clearly much bigger, significantly bigger, massive, some might say. So depending on your style of photography, this may not be your thing. It's personally not really my thing. It's too big. I'd rather prefer the more maneuverable, easy to pack system. I can easily get these two with a lens on it into my bag. These not so much. You got to take the lens off, and it's a whole process. So if you get to a spot or you want to grab your camera real quick, you got to put your lens on. This will already be there. So there's that. So the thing that you can't see, and you can go to the published specs, but we'll do a little animation to show you. But if you pick these up, you'll go from lighter to slightly heavier to slightly heavier to, oh my God, that is crazy how heavy this is. I can't express the difference just between here and here. This feels more solid, but man, this thing is a brick. It truly, I would not want to carry this around all day long, but it is a phenomenal camera. So if it is your thing, if you're a Nikon guy, if you have Nikon Z lenses, definitely go with it. Now, I haven't compared this autofocus. That's the next thing. One thing that I think doesn't get talked about enough between these cameras, especially this one, is I talk about eye focus on this, and most people, Logan himself included, was like, oh yeah, they do eye focus. They do eye focus. Well, the interpretation is it's the focus on the eye of the subject. This will also focus on you as the shooter's eye. So when you start looking around in this viewfinder, it's tracking what you're looking at as the photographer. So it's factoring that into when you're focusing on something. So you can use your eye to focus on 3 different things at 3 different focal lengths, and it will quickly pick that up and focus on it. That is a very cool feature. Again, I haven't compared it to this, but that is awesome. Compared with the weight difference, that's something to think about a lot. Now, that all being said, we're shooting with the R5s, so we don't have that out. That's going to be in this caliber. And then the next thing is going to be your megapixels. You're shooting at higher megapixels here and here, but not here. So if you need that really high megapixel, go with your R5, go with your Z9. This is not going to do it, but this is a phenomenal camera. Anything else I'm missing? Not that I can think of. We'll do some testing on autofocusing. Stay tuned for that to get an idea, but generally speaking, here's an overview of your range.